So, just before this weekend, only a couple of days ago, the review embargo for Death Stranding for the PlayStation 4 finally went out, and that means that a lot of reviews also went out. And we saw a lot of review scores, and we saw a ton of opinions. So many opinions, I don't even know what to do with them all. And that's kind of the focus of this video and this conversation I want to have with you guys. And it's about Death Stranding, this game's reviews, and people's reactions to these reviews because, not surprisingly, it's been a very polarizing topic. Honestly, everything about this game has captured people's attention since it was first revealed, the mystery leading up to every new trailer over the course of the past few years, when we finally saw gameplay, when we started to really question what this game was going to allow us to do. People were picking sides pretty early on. And now that we've seen a bunch of reviews and a lot of people in the gaming industry have actually played the game, I find it fascinating what the response is to people who haven't actually played the game. Now, obviously, I'm also talking about myself. I have not played the game. I did not get a review copy. I did not even try to pursue a review copy because there's no way I can review games of this scale in any sort of timely fashion. I'm just too busy, and of course I don't do YouTube full-time anyway, so it just doesn't make sense. But a lot of you might also know that I am very excited for Death Stranding. I think that the game looks really cool. I like the vibe, I like the tone, I like what seems to be going on with the really convoluted and confusing story. I love Norman Reedus, I like Del Toro and Kojima. Well, okay, I love Del Toro, I like Kojima enough, but I'm not like a super huge fan, and I honestly haven't even played most of the Metal Gear games. But I appreciate that he's kind of this like artistic auteur kind of video game developer and director, and he's got that kind of mystique about him. Like, some people could find it kind of pretentious and over the top, and I get it. In fact, I even agree with it, but it doesn't make me dislike the guy, even though I'm somebody who isn't really a fan of his games. It might be kind of confusing to understand how I could feel that way, but I don't know, that's just how I feel. What can I do? The point is, I haven't played this game. I'm willing to bet 99% of you out there watching this have not yet played the game. Here on November 2nd, November 3rd. I'm recording on the 2nd. This video is probably going to go up on the 3rd, and so the game is still a week or so away from releasing. So I know most people haven't played it. But I just find it curious that this is the kind of game that people want to draw their lines in the sand over and just, stick their flags on this opinion or that opinion. It's always interesting when this stuff happens with a product or a game or a movie or something before it releases. That's what's really fascinating to me. And when we look at what's happening with Death Stranding, we can look at what the Metacritic is at right here and now when I'm recording, and it's at an 84 with like 74, 75 reviews. Let's be real, you guys. That is a good review score, period, end of discussion, end of sentence, end of debate. There is no debate. An 84 is just a good score. Is it a great score? Is it a mind-blowing score? Is it the score of a masterpiece game that's going to last decades upon decades, and be the seminal moment in gaming history? No, probably not. But is it a good score for a game that is good and in most cases would be worth your money to purchase? Yeah, the answer is yeah, guys. It's an 84. That's not a bad score. But of course, because of the nature of this game, because of the nature of Kojima and his really insane diehard fans, and then also his really insane diehard haters, people are so split because this game wasn't this, 98, 99 Metacritic score, unbelievable masterpiece kind of review, but it also wasn't the complete garbage train wreck review of like a 40 or a 49 or a 50. Like, 84 is like right in that gray area where it gives both sides just enough fodder to attack the other. And it's like, oh my God, can we just grow up a little bit? Can we be a little bit more mature? Do we have to be kids? What's going on? What's been interesting to me is I think the three main points I've taken away from people's reactions to the review scores of this game are, one, the fact that people who think the score is too high are just wanting to tear down all the people who enjoyed it or want to play it, who like Kojima. The second is the people who think that it's too low, want to attack all the people who are complaining about it and saying, oh my God, I can't believe you gave it so low of a score. And the third is that there are a couple of reviews that are a little bit strange and maybe a little bit suspect that seem to talk as though the game isn't good, and yet somehow actually gave it a surprisingly very high score. And so those are kind of the three things that I'm taking away here, a week before the game comes out and I finally get my own hands on it. What I want to do is I grabbed a couple of what I kind of see as kind of the more controversial review snippets from the Metacritic website and the Metacritic review page for this game that I kind of wanted to go over. Just read a couple and then kind of talk about what I'm feeling here. So we'll look at the first one, and this comes from Game Planet, and here's what they say on Metacritic. While Death Stranding will surely be the most divisive game of this generation, there is no arguing that it offers new ideas on pushing the medium forward and shows that games don't always typically have to be, quote, fun. The story is beautifully presented and is surprisingly restrained and focused for a Kojima title. All of the actors put on amazing performances, and while its gameplay will be too slow for many, those willing to peel back the layers will discover a thoughtfully designed experience that will leave you ruminating for weeks after finishing. So, that's one of these review scores that they gave it a 100, which means a 10 out of 10, a perfect score. The highest score you can give a game, and they did kind of talk about it not really always being fun. Of course, an opinion, a review is always someone's opinion. It's always subjective, and so I'm not going to take away from anyone who's giving these reviews here. Like, if they feel how they feel, I'm not going to question someone's opinion, but I do think that some of the wording in these is definitely weird, and that's one of them. So let's take a look at another. Digitally Downloaded also gave it a 100 or a 10 out of 10, and they say Death Stranding does belong in an art gallery more than it does sitting on consoles next to more traditional, quote, games. As I sit here to write this, I am fully convinced that there are going to be plenty of reviews from my peers that veer to the other extreme as far as their scores go. And fair enough, because as a quote game, Death Stranding doesn't do much. But as a work of art, Death Stranding is something mesmerizing, intelligent, and powerful, and we never see this kind of work within the big budget blockbuster space. This was a rare treat to play, and I rather like this new look independent Kojima. PlayStation Lifestyle's very controversial review, where they gave it a 95, states, Death Stranding is not a, quote, fun game, but it's an important and meaningful experience that earns its payoff through every bit of frustration and slog. It's a look at life and death, connection and solitude, a game about building up what matters most and supporting each other selflessly. You'll be bored at times and downright frustrated at others, but it comes with a great reward at the end that is made sweeter by the trials that precede it. It's brilliantly unique in its design and implementation of online elements. Okay. That's a pretty weird review. That was worded and phrased very curiously, obviously, and quite a few people have brought that up. I actually watched great videos on the Death Stranding review kind of situation from both Sean, RGT85, and OJ Player Essence, good buddies of mine who made really good videos. I'm going to link those below. You guys should go watch them if you haven't already. And they kind of touched on some of this topic here, and definitely that exact review as well. And yeah, let me pull it back up here. I don't really know why they're trying to state it this way. They say it's not a fun game. They refer to it as frustrating and a slog. And they say you'll be bored and frustrated. But they also talk about how the reward is the payoff. Obviously, the story and the journey is part of what they enjoyed about it. And so that's where, looking at a review specifically like this and these other couples I've read here so far, yeah, it's a little bit tough to kind of parse through what it is they're trying to get at. But I also can sort of see what I think these reviewers are trying to say. They're trying to say a game can be good, great, or maybe even excellent while still having some things that hold it back in certain ways, right? And so it can be frustrating or a slog at times, but the overall journey and the payoff at the end made it all worth it. And I get that. That's not a crazy thought, you guys, if you really think about it. I think that that's a completely fine approach to reviewing a game or to enjoying a game, and I don't really blame anyone for feeling that way. It gets a little bit muddier when you look at the people who gave the perfect scores. It's like, okay, you can have that opinion and think this game is great, but can you also objectively say it's a 10 out of 10? I don't know about that. And then, PlayStation Lifestyle giving it a 95, at least they didn't go to a perfect score. But, when you see the negative adjectives they used, slog, frustrating, boring, not fun, that sounds like maybe you needed to dip it a little bit more than just 5 points. So really tough to kind of get at what's going on there. It is a little bit suspect, but I don't want to completely tear everyone down because I understand trying to find a middle ground, even if maybe some of these reviewers didn't succeed at that. This Easy Allies quote and review isn't really controversial, but I kind of liked the way this snippet was phrased, and I think it's, appropriate for the topic we're talking about, so I wanted to highlight it real quick. They say, giving it an 80 score, they say Death Stranding is an easy game to complain about or even be angry at, but it's also a lot more fascinating than many other more conservative works. So yeah, pretty straightforward, short little snippet of their review, but I think that when you look at what they're saying and you also combine that with their 80 score, basically like an 8 out of 10, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate that they're willing to call out the obvious controversy. They say it's an easy game to complain about or an easy game to be angry at. They're talking about the things that maybe are unique and quirky and strange and uncomfortable about this experience, while also still saying it does so many other things in such an interesting way, and it's very fascinating the way it compares to other conservative games that are its peers. And so that's why it's obviously got issues and things that hold it back from being truly great, but it's still pretty darned good. So here's our 8 out of 10, an appropriate score based on just a little 2 sentences they give here. And considering we're talking about a game that everyone's complaining about, whether they're saying the score is too high or too low, I appreciate the fact that they call out everyone saying it's easy to complain about it, but if you look deeper, you might find something else. I think that that's actually pretty cool. If we look at 2 more reviews I want to highlight, here we have IGN's. IGN's is very controversial, of course, and they gave it a 68, a 6.8, and they say, there is a fascinating, fleshed-out world of supernatural science fiction to enjoy across its sprawling and spectacular map, so it's a real shame that it's all been saddled on a gameplay backbone that struggles to adequately support its weight over the full course of the journey. A lot of people had a lot to say about that. And then, of course, the last review is the one really, really terrible review from a site called Stevivor, if I'm saying that right, and they give it a 35, yo, 3.5. They say Death Stranding is an irredeemable piece of garbage that should serve as a warning to publishers who give developers carte blanche to create, quote, art. Ooh, the burn. That's a really well-worded burn. I'm not gonna lie, that's gotta sting. And so, after reading that and looking at all these reviews from the very top to the very bottom and some of the controversial aspects, I mean, again, there's like 70 some odd reviews. I just read to you 5 or 6 of them. There's a lot to kind of parse through, and I think the most important thing to remember is we're all sitting here talking about this, myself included, as people who have not played the game. That is the key, and I see people who are haters jumping to say, oh, see, I told you it was going to suck. The game obviously sucks, and I was right, and you were wrong, and now the game sucks, and you should feel dumb. And it's like, hey, 84 isn't a suck score, period. It's not that bad. Obviously, people were touting this game like it was going to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and that it was going to be like a, 120 out of 100 kind of scores. And so those people's made their own mistake by just completely being blind to the fact that it's just a game by one guy, and his team, of course. But I just really have issues with people who are just going so overboard, And again, whether you're an extreme hater or an extreme defender, it's people who haven't played the game. Why don't you wait until either you play the game yourself to see how you feel, or if you're going to pass on it, you can at least wait until the gaming public gets their hands on it. And maybe when we have, opinions from thousands upon millions of gamers, regular people like you and I who go out to buy these games with our money, more often than not. I do get review copies sometimes, but, this is definitely one, like I said, I'm not getting a review copy. We go out and we buy it with our money, and it's like, then we're going to see a wide variety of probably more pure and genuine opinions, not so much this whole pre-release critical kind of nonsense, just review drama that we're going through right now. It's kind of a controversy that I don't think is worthy of being controversial. It's a really unique, weird game from a really unique, weird guy. If it appeals to you, like it does to me, great. If it doesn't appeal to you, also great. Just let people feel how they want to feel and discuss it, but discuss it maybe without being an asshole. I know, what am I doing even asking people to act that way on the internet? It's never going to happen. I'm not blind to that, but I just want to at least say it. I think it's important to state the sentiment, even if it's ridiculous. Try to just feel how you feel without being an asshole to other people. Is that so crazy? It shouldn't be, but honestly today it pretty much is. So I think on that note, that is where I'm going to end this video. These aren't necessarily opinions for me because we're talking about a game I haven't played. These are just my thoughts on other people's opinions. Both people who've played the game and what they think, and then people who haven't played the game and what they think about the opinions of the people who have played the game. It's a mess, and it shouldn't be a mess, but it is. What are you gonna do? These are my thoughts. I do want to hear what you guys have to say about this, and if you're curious or excited for the game, if you plan on playing it, please discuss that below. If you think it looks like hot trash, feel free to discuss that below. Just because I'm excited doesn't mean I'm this like diehard that's gonna have my feelings hurt if you think it looks dumb. And hey, the game might turn out to be bad. You know, I'm excited, but I'm not blind to the fact that it might actually be disappointing or bad. That happens. You know, and I'm not going to have any problem telling you guys that, like, hey, this game kind of sucks. I thought it was going to be great, and it wasn't good. If that's the case, I'll tell you. So, with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.